I want you to think about your favorite restaurant. Maybe it's Italian. Maybe it's a steakhouse. Ooh, there is an amazing steakhouse down in Tampa, Florida that I absolutely love. It's called Charlie's. Okay, let's use Charlie's as an example. So you have this favorite steakhouse. Now, if we think about Tampa, Florida, there's a lot of restaurants. There's seafood and there's Italian and there's all of the different ethnic foods. But, there's a lot of steakhouses as well. There's more than one steakhouse in town. Now, I am from outside the Toronto area. I am Canadian, and yet you are listening to me talk about my favorite steakhouse in Tampa, Florida. So what is it exactly about this steakhouse? What is it exactly about Charlie's that had people recommend it to me, have me go there with some friends at a conference, have an amazing experience, and then return time after time after time? What is it about Charlie's and this steakhouse and this experience and the quality of the food and everything else about it that has me drive past every other steakhouse? When I am in Tampa, from my hotel to Charlie's, I pass at least 4 other steakhouses. Why would I do that? And then here's an even better question. Why would your customers, why would your prospects drive by, or in this case, if you're online or virtual or what have you, what would have them ignore all the advertising and all the sales calls and all the pitches and all the opportunities from every other one of your competitors, every other player in your market? What would have your prospects and your customers ignore them to choose you, to work with you time and time again? Now, I'm sure you have some clients and some customers who do that. And I'm sure you have more clients and customers and prospects who don't. And this is what we're talking about in today's episode. We are talking about what is your competitive edge? What values do you give clients or customers that are so different from everyone else? What is it about the way you work? What is it about your systems, your processes, the investments you've made, how you handle things, your speed of delivery? What is it about you and your business that is so unique and so different that your prospects and customers would drive by every other player in the market to pick you time and time again? And that's exactly what we are going to explore and talk about with today's remarkable guest, Dr. Chuck Bamford. Now, Dr. Bamford is a strategic advisor and a managing partner at Bamford Associates. It's a firm that helps companies develop and implement really great strategic plans. Now, Dr. Chuck Bamford has over 20 years of experience in teaching strategy and entrepreneurship, and this includes teaching at organizations like Duke University and the University of Notre Dame and at Richmond and a bunch of other places. He has literally written the book on this. In fact, he's authored 6 textbooks and won numerous teaching excellence awards. And today he's coming on the podcast to share really, really clear insights on how we as business owners can set ourselves apart from our competition and how important it is to know what makes our business different, what makes our business unique, so we can go out there and sell more. So welcome to How to Sell More, the sales podcast for non-sales people, where each week we give a mini masterclass to help ambitious B2B leaders like you tackle the biggest challenge every business faces, and that's growing revenue. I'm Mark Drager. Let's get into it. So Chuck, you are well known for your practical business strategy, your insights. And what one reviewer said for your book was a no bullshit approach. So I know that I like that. I know that my listeners like that. So where I would like to start, because business strategy, strategy, planning, people talk about strategic planning. I want to start at the very basics because I've been in business for now 18 years. And I was listening to a Harvard Business Review video the other day that talked about the difference between strategy and planning. And I realized that perhaps I'm 18 years in business and I didn't even know that there was a difference between these things. Can we start with what the difference is between strategy and planning and why we get this so confused?
Well, I think people overcomplicate strategy. So strategy at its very core, I think, is relatively straightforward. It's about getting customers to go past your competitors and buy from you. Why would they do that, right? Why would they drive past a competitor and buy from you? Why would they seek you out and not seek out one of your competitors? What is it that separates you? And in my opinion, strategy's got two pieces. Half of strategy is not frustrating your customers. I said half of strategy is not pissing off your customers. So customers expect certain things when they come to purchase from X, whatever X turns out to be. They expect certain things. We just need to be level with those things. We just need to be not bad at those things. We need to accept credit cards. We need to be able to respond quickly. We need to, I can go down a long list of things. It depends on what the company is. And then the other part of strategy is tell me what truly separates you. And we know it's not silly things like our people or quality or customer service or these other things. What is it that truly separates that would get a customer to go past competitors to buy from you? And then, Mark, I guess my take is planning is putting it all together so that it actually implements, but I guess I don't really know.
Well, to fill in the audience, here's what the Harvard Business Review breakdown had. It was that planning people get caught up in because it's the what are we going to do this quarter to make it happen? And they often overlook strategy completely. And they took it a step back to say strategy is a vision. It's a list of assumptions. It's a creation of if this were to happen, these other things would have to be true to be able to make this happen. And if you find that you're 3 months in or 6 months in and those things that you assumed to be true are not becoming true, then you can adjust your strategy from there. So I don't know how that hits you, but that's what their explanation was.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like pieces of that. I mean, we would certainly argue that we start with strategy by looking at what the competitors are doing, looking at what we think are North Star goals. What is it we're trying to achieve? But I guess where I would maybe slightly differentiate or separate from that kind of thing is I think strategy is about really figuring out how to get new customers, how to grow the business in such a way that customers will want to come to you.
Now, I have heard you say, and you just briefly mentioned it, that strategy starts with the competition. It starts at looking at the market, looking at the competitive landscape, looking at perhaps what others are doing well and whether we can want to go head to head and fight a battle with entrenched people, whether we want to look for white space or new opportunities that have maybe yet to be explored. And can we go further faster by doing that? But often I find, and I'd love to get into this with you, that's the strategy needs to start with the leader because a business, depending on the size, certainly, but if we're dealing with small or medium-sized organizations, a business will only be able to grow to the levels of leadership's thinking, to leadership's confidence, to their ability to make investments, make smart decisions, and really their comfort zone. And so I always prefer to start with, what are we building? What is the vision? What are the goals? What do you think is achievable? And then we can look to our target audiences, we can look to our target customers, we can look to our competitors to almost validate if their beliefs are true or not true, if their thinking is correct or not correct, or if there's new opportunities to spot. How does my assessment strike you, and why might I actually want to start with competitors versus the leadership?
Yeah, I don't, maybe it's a chicken and the egg question, because I think you need both. You can't have a quote, great leader who understands people and understands what need to be done and is willing to hold tight and actually grow and make the commitments if we don't also have an understanding of what are the competitors doing. How are the competitors winning? Why do competitors have business? Right. I think that's one of the questions everyone should ask is, why does a competitor have business and why would they buy from me? So I do think that the leadership is crucial. So I won't work with a company where we interview and talk to the CEO and the leadership team. If they're not committed to doing these kinds of things, if they're not going to really put forth the effort, if they're not willing to engender the discussion that might hurt their feelings in the room with their people, and they might be offended if they find out the competitors are really quite good and they're not terrible. If that's the case, we've got a problem. So I like what you're saying, that I think for me, leadership is a lot about consistency, willing to push through, willing to listen and understand, but also at some point, somebody has to make a decision. And they're the ones that have to be able to do it. And we've got to have that. So I think there's a, yin and yang that kind of ties those together.
So let's imagine that I'm the leader of, let's say, a robotics manufacturing company or a control systems company. I have great people. I've been in business for years, but I do a lot of things and I don't really know what's working. I don't really know what's not working. I don't really know what we need to do to fix it, but I know that I need more. I need more sales. I need more customers. I need to be able to increase my margins. My market's commoditizing, like lots of stuff's happening around me. What would you say if I came to you? What would be the next parts of our conversations? What would be the next steps? What would you tell our listeners? How would we work through this?
So I like the way you started that. I think one of the things that we do quite often is we say, let's take every single thing you've been doing and talk to me about what revenue has been over the last 3 years in each one of them, line item by line item by line item. You also could do it based on profit margins or other things, line item by line item. And let's identify those that are causing us real issues. One issue. The second issue is what truly separates us. So when we look at the company, just in total, what really separates us is it's rarely products. It's more things like how fast we are able to do something or how well we are able to connect with the customer or how well we are willing or how much effort we'll put into ensuring that it's 100% quality before it goes out the door. It's usually something else. There are things that we do that we can then use to separate us from our competitors. Then the question becomes, how do you apply those things to each of those lines? And there might be lines, honestly, Mark, that help us get to where we are today that have no future, right? There's no market potential for it. There's no real growth opportunity. And we can either do one of two things, continue doing it if we're making money on it while we're able to do something else. Or if there's a real runway, given what we think our advantages are, let's do something different with it, with what's going on. I'm going to continue on for just a moment. A lot of my clients are private equity firms who they acquire these portfolio companies and then they go, we need someone to come in and help them figure out how to grow. And what I care about is how you're going to grow. How are you going to 2x, 3x your sales? And let's presume you know how to hold on to your current sales. So what is it? Where's the runway? Where are the things that are going to give us a real runway? And then we simply make a decision on all the others, despite the fact that this is how we got here, Chuck. We love it. Don't make us give it up. We have to give up things that we've exhausted. And it's tough.
I have a client who is in manufacturing and they do something really amazing. They do just-in-time manufacturing, but they don't really. They actually allow their clients to order all of the materials and they flat produce everything, but they don't assemble anything and they don't finish anything or ship it out until it's on demand. And so they will actually allow you to lock in all of your current pricing, even if you're going to have batch releases over the course of 12 months or 18 months. But this allows customers to completely lock in against inflation, against any kind of changes. And they charge no storage fees, and they do this all because it's, from their perspective, it's just the right way to go about business. And they don't really talk about it very much. They don't talk about it. They're afraid their competitors are going to copy them, that their competitors are going to do the same thing. And so I'm like, but what an amazing thing that you do. And they find themselves getting squeezed on pricing. They find that, an older generation that they had a lot of relationships with are retiring or moving on, and a new generation of purchasing agents and others are coming in and want to look good. They want to look good to leadership. They want to save their company money. They want to squeeze everyone. They don't care about relationships. And these are very common challenges in a lot of industries and a lot of organizations. And a big pushback I get, and I'm curious if you see this, is I don't really want to put this out there because this is our secret sauce and everyone is just going to copy me. I heard maybe in 2006, 2007, when I was starting my career, I heard a speaker said, you're either teaching your competition or you're learning from them, but you can't sit on the sidelines. So you're going to have to pick one. What do we say to those who feel very uncomfortable putting all of this out there to know that our secret sauce will just be picked up and copied by everyone else?
So there was back in the 1980s when resource-based analysis all really was coming to the forefront, and we're setting SWOT behind us and stuff. One of the elements of it was a lack of understanding of how it was we had a competitive advantage. And we liked that obscurity that helped us give us some protection. What has been sort of really found out over the last 15 years or so is that you have to put it out there, because I want the customer to choose me because I do this. I want them to choose me because of this. The only way to do it is to put it out there. What we hope is that the multiple things in durability, right? So you were talking about something that's relatively rare compared to the competitive set, right? Very nice. Then the question becomes, how long can you hold on to it? What's the durability of it? And there are three elements to durability, and it's about that detailed understanding. So one is that it would just cost too much for your competitors to do it. They don't want to do it, right? Another one, it would take them a lot of time. All their systems are built a current way, not the way you were describing, like with the manufacturer, right? They're not built that way, and it's just too time consuming for them to go back to it or go to that. The third one is they think you're stupid. That's my favorite one, by the way, right? They look at what you're doing and they go, no, I'm not going to do that, which is perfect, because any one of those gives you more runway. So I had a client, very similar in a way, Mark. We got through the entire strategy retreat. They had something was compelling. It was rare. It was durable. It was non-substitutable. They could charge more for it. It was valuable. And they didn't want to tell anybody. And literally the CEO said, this is great, Chuck, thanks, but we don't want to tell anybody about this. And I'm like, no, you have to tell people. Why would a customer do it if you don't tell them? Well, they'll figure it out.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah. When are they going to figure it out, right? How are you going to draw in new customers, right? Word of mouth. About what? About what we do. So you're telling, anyway, by the way, I failed. After an hour and a half, I gave up. And I just said, fine, okay, then that's what you guys are going to do. And by the way, they've kind of wallowed for the last 5 years, even though they are spending an enormous amount of money on something that truly does give them a competitive advantage. So I think the piece that I thought was interesting about what you brought up is that I want to charge more for this, Mark. I will do all this. I will give you a consistent price. I will lay this groundwork, but it's going to cost you, right, to do this. I either want more of your business. I want you to guarantee something for me. I need some things in place for me to do this for you. And then hopefully also there's a cost structure issue, which I think there probably was, right, for them. And they get a better basis point run along the way. So I firmly believe you have to shout it from the rooftops and hope nobody can match you.
And on that point, can you over-engineer your products, your services to the point where you have differentiated it? And by the nature of that, you've made it slower, you made it more expensive. Like you're doing everything right? Like it's the best of the best of the best. But frankly, no one's willing to pay for the best of the best of the best. And then you price yourself out of the market. Is that a risk?
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh, yes, right. And it's all about what does that customer set want and what are they willing to pay you for? Yeah. And I do think you're right. I think people keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and it was unnecessary.
So I know one thing that is often quite confusing, and I find this confusing as well. Now, I'm a brand strategist. I feel like this is my job to know this. So listeners, please forgive me. But everyone gets caught up in mission and vision and values. I mean, I use a lot of this terminology because I feel like core values go to, again, to leadership. It goes to the vision of what we're building. It sets the culture. It will define who you will work with and who you won't work with, who you will hire and who you won't, and who fits. So this is really important stuff. It's not important to go through an exercise and come up with 14 different points that you hope people memorize and then you throw up on a wall somewhere. But if we're speaking just about strategy and differentiation and why people pick us, we have mission, we have vision, we have values. I know it matters to me, so that way I can help create, again, the culture and everything else. But if you can articulate it, does it really matter?
So I'm a relative fan of mission. And then I kind of like, if you want to do the other two, let's talk about it. But let's start with vision. So I think vision is nice. If you can come up with a compelling vision that people really want to be a part of and go, wow, I really want to be a part of that, it'll help you recruit people, right? There's no question about it.
As long as you live up to the promise of the vision, it's usually aspirational and it's usually something that gets someone excited who's in leadership, but everyone else, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So if there is something there, then I think it has value. I think people worry too much about crafting all those things. Let's skip mission for a second, go to values. Most are garbage, right? Almost all of them are things like, we have to be trustworthy and honest, and we have to care first for our customers, and we're a mission first organization. And it's like you go and interview them, and they're not any of those things. So they're garbage values. If they were real, and some organizations I've run, I'm sure you have too, they're real. Like they only have 3, right? Total transparency, and they mean it, right? Or we will do what the customer needs. Whatever those, if they've got them and they truly permeate the organization, then it makes strategic change a lot easier. Because now when things go bad, I go to the group and I go, we got to make this change, but we're holding true to our values. And everybody goes, okay. And they do it. And I think one of the keys to success is not a great strategy. It's your ability to change your strategy. So whenever you read anything that I write, a lot of what I write, I usually put a date on it. McDonald's was great here. This was great here, because it's just for brief periods of time. It's those rare organizations that can continue having a great strategy, a little bit hiccup, another great one, a little hiccup, another great one. And they're usually ones where the values have permeated the organization. It is a real culture, and it enables me to make strategic change faster, because all of strategy is about getting all of my employees moving in relatively the same direction. That's the whole game of strategy. I've always argued you could have a terrible strategy, terrible. But as long as you're all moving in the same direction, you're probably going to make some good money along the way. So it's about that. Mission to me, Mark, is where I think we can play it. So mission is, how do I win now? Right? Why do I win business now? Why do I beat my competitors now? What's the mission?
Is it my mission? Is it my mission applied to my customers and my clients? This is the stuff that I maybe I get overthinking, get lost in the weeds.
Yeah, I think it is always applied to the customer. So I think you've got that right. It's always, but it's the, why would a customer choose me now? Why do I exist in this industry, and why am I going to be successful? And I say the company, I don't mean I, right? Why are we as a company going to be successful? What separates us? And when they say things like, well, we just make really good stuff. Okay, so does everybody else, Well, we really take care of our customers. Yes. Name the company that says, man, I'll tell you what, our goal is to piss off our customers. I mean, that's what we try to do. I mean, nobody admits that. They all claim the customers first.
Ryanair.
Oh, geez. All right. Ryanair doesn't claim that. Okay. Ryanair says we will abuse
I don't know if they care about the customers that much, but anyway.
No, I flew Ryanair, flew it one round trip, and swore to God I would never do that again in my entire life. But Ryanair doesn't try. You're right. They don't try. They make no effort whatsoever. And everybody knows that. Okay, you're right. There are very few companies that try actively to piss off their customers. But the mission, if you want to have one, then it's got to be real, and it's got to be about what separates us, what makes us where you want to go. And then I turn it over to marketing people, Mark, to turn it into a slogan, turn it into how do we market it? I have no idea how to do that. I have not a marketing bone in my entire body. But I love it when we can craft it together and say, this is it. What a lot of companies have done is gone away from mission and vision and moving more to like North Star goals, right? You've heard all this before too. Yeah. So, and that's become a very big thing. Give me 2 or 3 bullets. Tell me what our North Star goals are. Okay, I got it.
You've touched on this. the idea that your employees are not your competitive advantage. Earlier when we were speaking, it was one of the things that you mentioned. I struggle with that. I struggle with that idea because you certainly, if you don't have the right set of employees in the right roles and they're all not moving the right direction, of course, you're not going anywhere. But we've specifically focused, my agency, my work specifically focuses on people-driven organizations, professional services, specialized services, and often the very magic, the very thinking. You know, I was sitting down with another leader over the weekend and they were going through their systems and they said there's nothing at all that makes them unique. But I wanted to know for their specific account managers who are really more like coaches to help clients succeed, I wanted to know what would make someone in that role excellent. And what do they know that we don't know? What do they think that we don't think? What do they do that we don't do? And if I could understand why the account manager in that role would lead to a successful outcome for the client, there's a magic there. There's something there. And so to me, the right employee in the right role is a competitive advantage because they're doing something that hasn't been standardized. And if we can take that to market, then that's amazing.
Do you mind if I poke you here for a minute, Mark?
Yeah, please do.
So I don't disagree on the fundamental. The fundamental is that all strategy is implemented by employees. Without employees, I don't get anything and I don't succeed anywhere. I have to have successful implementation. Right employees. Ooh, that's a tough one, right? So how do I know that they're right or they're wrong? I would argue that every time you've gone out to hire somebody, you have hired the person you hired you thought was the right person. I'm a 50-50 hirer. 50% of the time I get somebody who does a great job, and 50% of the time I've got to fire them within 90 days. I'm terrible at this. So if I argue that it's your people for a second, then the fact that Joe is the employees delivering, then Joe is my competitive advantage. What happens if Joe leaves the company? Right? What happened if Joe dies? What happened if Joe goes to a competitor? We don't go, well, that's it. We're out of here. Joe's finished. Joe left. I'm closing shop. No,
But if Joe was really good at his role,
yeah,
and you went to go replace Joel, would you not look for someone equally capable, or would you be?
I would. Absolutely.
And you are the curator of your people, and so half them you have to let go because they don't live up to snuff, and the other half you have expectations and you have standards.
Sure.
And by holding everyone to those standards, is that not a competitive advantage?
Yes, but now it's the standards that are the competitive advantage. It's the systems that you put in place. It's the training. It's the expectation you have. And then quite honestly, without being mean, it doesn't matter whether it's this employee, this employee, this employee, and this employee, or if we lose these three employees where we're going to replace them, we'll lose a little along the way, but we will replace them. If you go to a restaurant, and you've gone to the same restaurant every single month, and you have your favorite waitress at that restaurant, right? And you show up at the restaurant and your favorite waitress isn't there. You don't go, well, that's it. I'm not coming back, right? I'm not going to come here tonight. You're like, no, we're already here. We got reservations. Let's go ahead and eat dinner. And stunningly, there's a waiter or a waitress who is just as good as them, delivers just as one. You think to yourself, wow, that's really good, And so the systems we put in place, the knowledge, the training, the expectations of delivery are all, but it's not the person that's the competitive advantage. It's the thing we're doing is the competitive advantage, and people are how we deliver on it. But I want good people, but I mean, we constantly try to hire good people. We fail a lot.
I see what you're saying now. And I appreciate that differentiation or that difference, actually, because when I look at employees and I see, well, your employees are, again, I'm not thinking that's one specific person we're going to hang our entire hat on and build our entire organization around, as opposed to, again, the people, the systems, the expectations. So this has been an amazing conversation. I hope everyone listening has gotten a lot out of it. I do have one final question for you. So if you were to give us one tip or strategy to help each of us listening sell more, what would you suggest we do?
I guess I have to do it one that's going to sound repetitive, but dig deep. Get below the concept level that we stand on all the time. Well, it's customer service, Chuck, or it's quality, or it's get below that concept level and say, okay, customer service, right? What is it? Well, we do this. So does everybody. We do this. So does everybody. We do this. Yeah, they all do this. Well, Chuck, what separates us is this, and this. And I go, ooh, now you might have something. So we go investigate it, figure out if it's really rare, durable, non-substitutable. Now we go back to all of our customer service people, everybody. We say, look, we do great customer service. We do all the things our competitors do. But what separates us are these three things. So in every interaction with a client, I want these three things to come out because that's going to be what the differentiator is. So it would be get below concept levels where everybody feels comfortable talking and get to the nitty gritty of the things we actually do.
So that was the conversation I had with Dr. Chuck Bamford. And I will say, but just between you and me, that was one of my favorite talks. Maybe it's just because I'm a strategist talking strategy to a man with decades of experience, but I loved the conversation and I loved that episode. It's one that I have returned to and will return to listening back in the future. So with that, I'm going to share my 3 biggest takeaways from this talk. Number 1, you got to make sure your business meets the basic customer expectations, which means removing frustrations. And number 2, once you've done that, once you've really handled all of the basic things super well, identifying the unique selling propositions, the unique differentiators, the unique things that makes your company stand out in the market and have customers choose you over everyone else. Number 2, real valuable differentiators goes beyond generic claims. Anyone can say superior customer service. Anyone can say high quality. Anyone in any industry can talk about fast and can talk about cheap and can talk about caring, can talk about value engineering, can talk about all of these types of things. So your business really needs to pinpoint specific, tangible factors that genuinely set you apart from all your competition. And it's not easy. It's challenging work. In fact, it's work that we help business owners. We help B2B medium-sized businesses. We help business owners and their teams go through this process. We have a formal process we have developed that can help pull these things out of you, filter the things that don't matter, and create really powerful, compelling, unique value propositions. We can help you with that if you do need help with it. But that aside, this is work that needs to be done, and we have to go above and beyond the generic claims that any company in any industry can make. Because truthfully, at the end of the day, that stuff, it's not going to help you sell more. And number 3, we have to avoid overcomplicating and over-engineering these value props. Because we know differentiation is important. It's a necessity for every single business. But we got to avoid the trap of making things too complicated. Our products, our services, we can't make them so complicated that they're hard to understand, they become too costly, or we're just creating this monster, this machine that is potentially overpriced, that is potentially far too complex to explain in simple ways, or really even something that's far too complicated to even implement. We got to keep things simple, but unique. And that is where the hard work of everything we've been talking about today really pays off. So there you have it. Those were my 3 biggest takeaways from this talk. But I am curious, what were your big aha moments or takeaways? Anything challenge your perspective? Let's dive a little deeper. Over on LinkedIn is where I share more insights and more ideas, and also love to spark conversation. I'm Mark Traeger. You can find my contact details in the episode show notes. Why not head over there, drop me a connection request in a DM. I'd love to hear from you. Now, while you're over on LinkedIn, be sure to also follow Dr. Chuck Bamford for more industry and research-based content. You can also check out his website, BamfordAssociates.com. You can grab a copy of his book over at BamfordAssociates.com as well. You could grab a copy of his latest book, The Strategy Mindset 2.0, which is an updated guide to help with strategy design and implementation. It helps break down some of the myths that might stunt your company's growth. It's really a great practical book, like most of Dr. Chuck's great and practical advice. And you can find a copy of his book over at BamfordAssociates.com/books. Now, one last thing. If you made it this far into the show, you really should subscribe. And here's why. Each and every week, we try to give you the most tactical, most strategic business advice related to sales, marketing, and branding possible so you can supercharge your business growth and grow sales. So with that, I am Mark Drager. We're going to wrap up this episode. I will catch you in the next one.